Greetings people, I am Lucifer Seraph and welcome back to Final Fantasy VII. In the last episode, we delved deeper into the broken mind of Cloud, uncovered the secrets of the Mount Nibble reactor, deciphered the entirety of human history, and discovered Sephiroth wasn't always the overpowered, self-centered, compassionless, homicidal serial killer with a holier-than-thou attitude and an Oedipus complex. But he is now, so balls to it, shoot to kill. Once you wake up from the last hour of exposition, you are presented with the PHS from your team. The PHS, or Portable Handheld System, is basically a cell phone. Accessing it from a save point or the world map allows you to change the characters in your party. Anyway, heading away from Calm as fast as possible, head southeast along the valley. Our party eventually comes across what appears to be a farm. To the southwest of the farm is a marsh. Across the marsh is a cave. This cave is our destination. But it can wait. For now, we head to the farm. This is the Chocobo Ranch, complete with dancing chocobos. Behold, Choco Mog, your first summon spell, and it goes something like this. The Choco Mog Summon Materia. A relatively weak summon spell with a rather deceptive description, but we'll get to that later. Inside the cottage to the left we find Choco Bill, who will let us rest for 100 gil per night. He will also warn us against crossing the marsh. The marsh has somewhat of a slight problem. It's infested with a 50-foot tall, perpetually respawning snake called the Midgar Zolan. You can try to kill it if you like. It has 4000 HP, no weakness, and comes equipped with the enemy skill Beta, a powerful fire spell which hits the whole party for about 1500 damage each. But if you're anything like me, you won't survive long enough to see it. Good luck. The alternative is to ride a chocobo through the marsh. Chocobos are much faster than the Zolan, allowing you to reach the other side without getting eaten. Head to the stables and talk to Choco Billy, Bill's grandson. He tells the party that the chocobos outside are for another client, and consequently not for sale. With no other option, the team must capture a chocobo for themselves. Thankfully, Billy will sell us the chocobo lure materia for a pitiful 2000 gil. Do we have 2000 gil? No, we spent it all on supplies back in Calm. So let's get acquainted with the local fauna, shall we? Alpha Dunk, a pygmy elephant with 220 HP and no weakness. On the whole, nothing to worry about, but you can steal high potions from them if you're running low. Mandragora, a tuft of grass with 120 HP, no weaknesses, and a magic defense of 450. Concentrate on physical attacks since magic is barely worth the effort. Levricon, an odd bird-like creature with 200 HP and no weakness. They can gang up on you but are otherwise not a threat. You can also steal ethers from them. Finally, the Mew, a squirrel in a hole with 210 HP and, you guessed it, no weakness. Fairly weak but worth encountering for the level 4 Suicide enemy skill, a non-elemental spell that does major damage to any target with a level divisible by 4. For example, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on. Once you've raised 2000 gil, feed it to Billy and he'll spit out the chocobo lure materia. Equip it, but before you go chocobo hunting, talk to him again and buy some greens. I recommend Geishel greens, they're cheap. With the greens at the top of your item list, and the lure materia equipped, head outside and wander around the chocobo tracks you've undoubtedly noticed by now. Eventually you'll encounter a chocobo. The trick here is to kill everything that isn't a chocobo. Sadly, if you attack anything, the chocobo runs off in a panic. and so throw the greens at the Chocobo, and while it's eating, kill the monsters. Congratulations, you've just caught a Chocobo. Now you can safely cross the marshes. Incidentally, it is entirely possible to cross the marshes without one. It takes a few tries, but as you can see, it's possible. Dismount and head towards the cave. Whereupon the party discovers what happened to the Zolom that encountered Sephiroth. I could have done that, but I don't want to. I like snakes. Once you're suitably grossed out, head back to leave the screen and enter the cave. Welcome to the Mithril Mines, and here we encounter more enemies. The Madog, a golem with 220 HP, no weakness and pretty strong physical attacks. If you intend to use Tifa for any length of time, try to steal the Grand Glove from these guys. Castanets, crab-like foes with 190 HP and a weakness to fire. They attack in groups of about 3 to 4, so be careful. Crawlers, snakes with 140 HP that take half damage from ice attacks and have a weakness to earth attacks. You did buy the earth materia from Karm, right? Honestly, no threat whatsoever. One shot from Matra Magic and they die. And finally, the Arc Dragon, a flying monster with 280 HP and high magical defense. It absorbs fire spells, is immune to earth spells, and weak to wind spells. You can learn the enemy skill Flamethrower from this guy, but it costs 10 MP and is only slightly stronger than your level 1 fire spell. You can also steal ethers from them. The Arc Dragon and the upcoming boss are both weak to the wind element. Now, what do we have that deals wind elemental damage? Oh yeah, nothing. Okay, there are 3 spells in the game which have the wind element. Actually, there's quite a few, but you can only use 3 of them. The spell Tornado, which isn't acquired until much later, and the summon spells Chocomog and Typhoon, which don't actually deal wind elemental damage. But the materia itself is wind elemental, according to the description. So, to get around this, equip a Chocomog/elemental materia combo in your weapons in order to give your physical attacks a wind element. Back to the mines, head right from the entrance, and take the ether from the ramp. And the tent from the chest. Then climb the vines to the left of the room and grab the long-range materia. Give this to a close-range fighter, like Cloud or Tifa, and put them in the back row. Now they can fight in the back row without the attack penalty, and gain the ability to hit flying enemies, like the upcoming boss. Head back past the entrance, not forgetting to pick up the mine source along the way, and exit to the left. Once here we encounter Rude, a Turks operative. Sadly, he has the conversational skills of a cough sweet and quickly falls silent, prompting his co-worker to take up the slack. This is Elena, the newest member of the Turks. She was promoted because Cloud and his team beat up Reno back in Midgar. She announces that their mission is to locate Sephiroth, and basically be a thorn in our side at the same time. At which point, Sang enters and points out it's not a good idea to announce your orders to the enemy. Whereupon she goes ahead and tells us that Sephiroth was last seen heading towards Junon Harbor. Do you want to know the worst part? She's the best they could find. Elena and Rude then leave, with a passing comment from Rude telling us Reno is looking forward to a rematch. Sang then asks about Aeris. If she's not with you, he'll just leave. If she is with you, he tells her to take care, then leaves anyway. Head north to another cave, this time containing an elixir and a high potion. Head back and leave the caves via the western exit. Welcome to the Junon area. I'll talk about the enemies you'll find here later, because at this point you'll most likely be more interested in the gigantic bird sat on the hill in front of you. This is Fort Condor, Once you enter this area, you'll be greeted by a rather forlorn man asking for help. Accept and he'll let you into this rather quaint hamlet. Inside you'll find another forlorn figure at a table. He mentions that the building above them is a large Mako reactor, and that Shinra don't like the idea of having a huge condor making its nest on top of it. And so the people that live here are constantly at war with the armies of Shinra, and ask our team for help. And by help, I mean money. You don't necessarily have to, but if you accept you get access to the hamlet's stores and a free inn. The stores themselves aren't special, but the inn is extremely useful if you intend to acquire your next party member. Once rested and saved, head to the forest away to the north. Your target is the Mystery Ninja, but along the way you may encounter Formula, a flying enemy with 240 HP, immunity to earth, and a weakness to wind. They can be a problem since their blue impulse and cross impulse attacks hit the whole party pretty badly, so try to keep your health above about 400. You can also steal the boomerang from them, a weapon for the character you're currently trying to find. And the Kappa Wire, an odd specimen with 210 HP and no weakness. These things are a true pain. They have an ability called Grand Spark that can hit one target for over 100 damage. Not so bad until you realise they attack in groups of 5. Thankfully, Metro Magic should wipe them out nicely. You can also steal ethers from them. Once you find the Mystery Ninja, rest assured she isn't a threat. She uses weak items to deal elemental damage, and her physical attacks aren't all that powerful. She has 600 HP and no weakness. Once defeated, talk to her and answer her questions in the following order. Not interested. Petrified. Wait a second. That's right. Let's hurry on. Answer any question wrong, open the menu, or in any way take your eyes off her, and she'll run off, taking 700 gil from your wallet with her. Answering correctly will net you, in my opinion, one of the most interesting characters in the game. This is Yuffie Kisaragi, ninja, materia hunter, professional thief, and token lolicon character. And as you probably guessed, not to be trusted. This is skipping forward a bit, but I have to mention it now. Later in the game, Cloud goes on a date with either Aeris, Tifa, Barret, or Yuffie. Getting a date with Aeris and Tifa, that's easy. A date with Barret is something I will go out of my way to avoid. But getting the date scene with Yuffie is a challenge I've never managed to pull off. Here's the thing. Aeris, Barret, Tifa, and Yuffie all come with an unseen affection rating for Cloud. Aeris starts off at 50 points, Tifa with 30 points, Yuffie with 10, and Barret with 0. Your actions and conversation options throughout the game can either raise or lower the points for certain characters. I'll go deeper into this mechanic at a more appropriate time, but for now know that the only way I can find to suitably raise Yuffie's affection is to battle her, win, answer all but one question correctly, and let her leave with my money. Wash, rinse, repeat. About 10 times. Since answering any question correctly raises her affection by 2, but incorrect answers have no effect. Now the Mystery Ninja is a random encounter, meaning I'm fighting other things while looking for her. As a result, you'll notice my party is currently way overpowered, toting level 2 magic spells and level 3 limit techniques. So let's go kill a Midgar Zolom. Unfortunately, it's still rather powerful, and its beta technique still hits for over 1000 damage. Thankfully, by combining the fire and elemental materials in Cloud's armor, I managed to reduce this to around 600. Combining that with a nicely timed Meteor Rain limit break, and I got away with victory and the beta enemy skill. But sadly you get jack shit for killing this thing. Returning to the plot, we find our quote-unquote heroes back at Fort Condor. As I said before, this place is under siege from Shinra troops, and the locals want you to help them. This place is entirely optional, but there are 3 ways you can deal with it. 1. Give them about 50,000 gil and leave them to it. 2. fight the battle for them, or 3, say you'll help, use the facilities, and then never come here again. As you've most likely guessed, number 2 is the option of choice for the discerning masochist, so that's what we're going with. From the main chamber, head northwest up the stairs and talk to whoever this guy is. He'll give you a rundown of the situation. Your team is at the top of the hill, and the Shinra army is at the bottom, and the latter want to relocate the former. But the former is quite happy where it is, and thus tells the latter to get knotted. Naturally, this conflict of interest has caused some tension to build up, and the hill itself has become a battlefield. It's your job to hire soldiers and command them to protect the fort. Where they come from, how they get here, and how they're supposed to know what to do is something I never quite worked out. Either way, I recommend having about 10,000 to 15,000 gil in your wallet, since the troops cost 400 to 500 gil each. These battles can take a while, so I suggest you sit back, relax, and enjoy some rather appropriate Celtic rock while I take care of this.
Horses run with a polished shield, fight those bastards till they yield. Midnight man and blood red roan, fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry, how many of them can we make die? Follow orders as you were told, make their yellow blood run cold. Like ours is hard to stop. Close your mind to stress and pain. Fight till you're no longer sane. Let not one damn cur pass by. How many of them can we make die? Guard your women and children well. Send these bastards back to hell. We'll teach them the ways of a war. They won't come here anymore. Use your shield and use your head. Fight till everyone is dead. Raise the flag up to the sky. How many of them can we make die?
A rather simple RTS minigame. Basically an over-elaborate game of rock, paper, scissors. Every one of your troops has a strength and a weakness, aside from the fighter, who is your standard attacker with no weakness and no strength. The attacker is a basic soldier, strong against beasts and weak against barbarians. The defender is a walking tank, strong against barbarians but weak to wyverns. The shooter is a ranged combatant, strong against wyverns and weak to beasts. The repairer is your basic medic. They heal troops and repair traps, but they're incredibly weak fighters. The worker, basically a scout. A weak fighter but can place powerful bombs. However, these bombs can hit your own troops, so be careful. The stoner and the catapults are traps, constantly throwing or hurling rocks. Start by picking your army. You can't place troops below the halfway point, but this is a barrier that will advance with your troops. Your goal is simple enough: kill all the enemies on screen. There are a total of 10 enemies in this first battle. If you manage to wipe out all the enemies on the field, you win by default, regardless of how many you've actually fought. As far as I can tell, the enemy comes in 4 types: the 4-legged beasts, the humanoid barbarians, the winged wyverns, and the commander. And as far as I can tell, you don't meet the barbarians in this particular fight.
Swing your shining armors, piercing her ring. Our horses are on with the polished shield. Fight those bastards till they yield. Midnight man, blood red road. Fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? How many of them can we make die?
Sadly, I killed everything before the commander could spawn, so I tried again. Once the commander does appear, kill off the remaining enemies and send all your troops after him. He hits hard and will most likely kill anything in about 2 to 4 hits. If you have the funds, spawn a couple of defenders next to him and send them to attack. Once you beat them back, you receive 200 gil for every ally still alive, and the magic comb. A decent weapon for Red 13 with 3 materia slots and double materia growth. Should you fail miserably and let the commander reach the hut, you'll have to fight Commander Grandhorn. This thing has 2000 HP, no weakness, and is completely not worth the effort. He can poison you, but his most powerful move is the Grand Attack, which still does minimal damage. Burn the tosser and move on. Either way, if you win like this, you receive no rewards. Once you're finished here, head northwest towards Junon. On the way you'll find the locals. Nero Sufaroth. Whatever this thing's supposed to be, it has 150 HP and no weakness. Pretty weak, but be careful of the Heat Wing ability. Zemzelet. A large bird with 285 HP, a weakness to wind, and immunity to earth, water and gravity. Note this thing is only immune to earth while it's airborne. Aside from that, the only reason to take any interest in this thing is its White Wind enemy skill, but sadly you can't learn it just yet. Finally, the Hellrider VR2, a Warhammer wielding Black Knight riding on the back of a... whatever the hell this thing is. 350 HP, no weakness, and receives half damage from gravity attacks, of which we have none at this time. This guy's only worthwhile feature is the Electro-Mag ability, which reverses your position setup. Aside from that, no threat besides its rather large 70-point attack stat. Once you reach Junon, you'll find an ungodly amount of boggle to do. No, I'm serious, there's nothing to do here. The most interesting thing in this dreary suburb is the local weapon store, which doesn't actually sell weapons. With nothing to do, the team goes for a walk along the beach, whereupon we find a young girl trying to teach a dolphin to speak her name. That's quite a change of pace, don't you think? Literally nothing to do in this, the dullest town yet. Turn a corner and we've got Dr. Doolittle's niece teaching a dolphin the finer points of enunciation. Considering dolphins don't have lips, she's got quite a task on her hands. She believes you to be from Shinra, and completely dismisses your attempt to persuade her otherwise. Not that it matters, since the boss decides to arrive and scares off the dolphin. Priscilla then runs after it and gets herself knocked out. Incidentally, the name Priscilla is derived from the old Latin word Chrysos, meaning old. The intention is to bestow longevity upon its bearer. Somewhat ironic, since this particular Priscilla has the survival instinct of a turnip. Either way, your team has no option but to save her. Meet Bottom Swell, the boss of the hour. An aerial serpentine monstrosity with 2500 HP, an immunity to earth attacks, takes half damage from gravity spells, and a weakness to wind. Its attacks are pretty weak, dealing moderate damage from the tail attack. And the same goes for the Moonstrike. However, the Moonstrike has a tendency to attack the whole party in turn. Its next attack is the Big Wave ability. Again, moderate damage but hits the whole party. But the attack you need to watch out for is the Water Polo. Similar to the Pyramid cast by Reno back in Midgar, the Water Polo encases a party member in a prison, preventing them from attacking. The Water Polo differs from the Pyramid in two ways. First, it's completely immune to physical attacks, meaning it can only be killed by magic, but it's only got 40 HP so anything will do. And second, it constantly drains HP from the prisoner. If the whole party gets trapped, game over. Strategy-wise, if this thing proves a problem, try Poison. You should have picked up some poison materia back in the Shinra HQ, and now's a good time to use it. As you've most likely guessed, Bottom Swell is a long-range target, meaning only Barret and Yuffie can attack it physically. Equip Cloud with the long-range materia picked up from the Mithril Mines, or make him the designated magic user. The enemy skill Beta will happily knock off 1000 HP from Bottom Swell, but let's face it, if you manage to get this thing, then Bottom Swell isn't really a threat anyway. Once you kill it, it delivers one final big wave attack before dying, so keep your HP above 200 and you'll be fine. As you probably noticed, I'm no longer telling you how much damage the enemy attacks do to your party. At this point in the game, your stats will be wildly different to mine regardless of what you're doing. Just bear in mind, I'm attacking everything I can just to find the footage. You don't have to. After the battle, our team is left on the beach wondering if Priscilla is still alive. Whereupon some old guy runs up and discovers the girl isn't breathing, and asks, or rather orders, Cloud to perform CPR. However, Cloud doesn't know how. A quick tutorial later and Cloud starts the CPR minigame. Hit the switch button and Cloud starts taking breaths. 10 breaths and the gauge resets. Hit the switch again to inflate Priscilla. It takes 41 breaths to wake her up, so about 5 nearly full gauges should do it. Now, considering Cloud is supposed to be an ex-soldier, akin to real-life Marines or Commandos, you'd expect him to have some emergency first aid training. Hell, even I was taught CPR in school, it's not that difficult. But for some reason Cloud has to be taught on the fly by an old man who just appeared out of nowhere. Kinda makes you question his backstory. Either way, you can't fail this minigame and Priscilla eventually wakes up. The old man then takes her home to rest. Back in the town, talk to the woman near the town's entrance. She offers you a bed for the night as thanks for saving Priscilla. Being completely worn out, the team decides to take a rest. And that concludes episode 6. Join me next time for sea shanties and a trip to the south of Spain. Take care of yourselves, guys. I hope to see you soon, but until then, this is Lucifer Seraph signing off.